Former Liberal MP exposes Mark Carney, and you are not going to want to miss this one. This was an exclusive interview on Northern Perspective. If you want to watch the entire interview, I'd go over there on their YouTube channel and watch the entire thing. We're just going to take a look at this small clip.
He's the worst person to deal with this. And if you don't like what Justin Trudeau's done, you're going to hate what he did. He's Justin Trudeau 2.0. He's the man that's been behind the green drift and the green scam that has hurt the Canadian economy and has hurt Canadians generally, while at the same time doing nothing except furthering the interests of a handful of individuals who've decided maybe it's a good idea to get our companies to invest in Brazil, the Middle East, and build pipelines there while blocking them here in Canada. And now Canada finds itself with a tariff war in which our so-called trump card is oil and gas. Imagine if we had a couple of pipelines that people like Mark Carney weren't so prepared to definance and to block. We'd have options to sell to other countries who would definitely take, because there is a business case, like what Trudeau says, for our natural gas and oil. Countries like, I know, South Korea, Germany, Latvia, Lithuania, Greece. I mean, the list goes on. The number of countries that came to Canada, we said, no, there's no business case. Look, I mean, I have nothing personally against Mr. Carney, but to believe that a guy with, has had to leave his job here in Canada, go to Britain, and then find himself head of an organization called GFANZ, the Global Financial Alliance for Net Zero, now being subject to rumors and potentially pursuit of concerns by the U.S. antitrust of cartelization of the investment sector. I think it's very, very serious. We have banks now walking away from it in Canada and saying this is really very, very bad. Not just because Donald Trump was elected, because in of itself, last year when the Biden administration was in power, there was this feeling that this would treat, and it would definitely invite an antitrust investigation in which, unlike Canada, where our competition bureau, having worked on this thing for over 10 years, is really very hard to prove any type of illegal activity. In the United States is based on balance of probabilities, which is basically a civil case. And if you are seen as Mr. Carney, his group, as trying to stifle capital from getting to the oil and gas sector, you are going to be subjected to triple damages. So if the damage is $4 billion, it's triple. You're going to be subject to a $12 billion, lawsuit, and it will be enforceable. So that's why I think a lot of these smart banks and investment companies have walked away from this place like a bad smell, and that's Mark Carney's legacy. But I don't want to get beyond that because I think I want to see how much rope he's willing to sell himself in order to hang himself, because I think the Liberal Party has a real problem. They need, at the very least, to get rid of the Mark Carneys and the Stephen Guilbeaults and others like that who have done much damage to the economy and who represent the past 10 years, not the next 10 years.
What, cutting through everything, what should Canadians really be afraid of with Mark Carney?
Well, trying to find where this party finds itself on the spectrum has it at the far left. It isn't the center where we were. And it wasn't a party that pursued socialism. But this is a party that, and its apparent would-be leader, Mark Carney, would like to see systems like social credit. So in other words, reduce the standard of living in the country, have people driving around on bicycles in their 15-minute cities, which is why Stephen Guilbeault supported him, impose on Canadians hardship, the likes of which they are starting to experience and they don't like, while at the same time the rest of the world is passing us by, watching our economic performance, our GDP per capita drop to the lowest levels among OECD countries inevitably. This is a man who represents continuity of bad policy. This is the face, the man behind the curtains, if you will, operating the levers on Justin Trudeau. So as the country has declined, a lot of people ask, well, where's this coming from? It comes from a man who obviously had very little interest in investing in Canada, a lot more interest in making sure that the things he doesn't like are invested abroad, whether he's a technocrat or not. I think it's important because he tries to present himself as being something that he clearly is not. He has no common sense of what people are going through. He is a person who has been lifted on a silver spoon, and I take nothing away from the fact that he's probably very talented at what he does, but he's not right suited for what is required in politics, and that's the ability to understand ordinary person's struggles. He doesn't get it. And in fact, he's had everything to do with making the life and the ordeal of most Canadians that much more arduous and difficult. And so for that reason, he is an easier target, in my view, than Justin Trudeau. We know Trudeau was a bit of a goof, never really all he had was the last name, but he's done some really dumb things. Mark Carney is very unapologetic. The very fact that he has Gerald Butts and Katie Telford and the same group of liberals behind Justin Trudeau behind him, that should be an alarm, as well as his wife. And I don't like to bring in, our backgrounds, but his wife is part of the Eurasia group, part of the most militant of climate, catastrophists out there, Diane Fox, I should say, Carney. There's no doubt in my mind these people are committed to their green agenda, which it does not include human beings in terms of their ability to make ends meet unless they're prepared to accept a significant decline in their standard of living according to what they think. This is another form of authoritarianism on a level that Canadians are unfamiliar with. And if democracy doesn't matter with them, as it appears to be the case in the Liberal Party today, we have a parliament that hasn't functioned since September. By order of the Speaker, the Liberals have refused to divulge information about their green slush fund. That's money that you and I, or children or grandchildren, will have to pay for years to come, that have been divested to make these green grifters very, very rich. The fact that the government is protecting all of that while at the same time changing a leadership, which is going to have pretty much the same policy, while at the same time not bringing Parliament back and not giving the will of the people to give its stamp of imprimatur on what the government is doing, suggests to me this is a government that doesn't really care about people, doesn't have to worry about people, and of course is acting in a way that is totally anathema to our institutions and our public approval of the kind of direction the country is taking. Mark Carney is going to be a real problem for Canada. And the sooner we get to having an honest discussion about him, rather than his trolls making him look out like he's something that is the greatest thing since sliced bread, is going to be a real challenge, I think, not just for conservatives, but for folks like me who have been long-standing liberals, many of us sitting in the wings. And we are not holding back. We are pouncing on this man because he's extraordinarily dangerous for this country.
Yeah, you're going to want to share this video with every single person you know. Dan was bang on everything he just said. I agree with him absolutely.